Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Steam Forward podcast. As always, I'm your host, Savannah, and today our guest is a very familiar face, and that is Pastor David Freeman, and we're just going to have a conversation about the updates in the AI space as well as tech. So please help me welcome Pastor David. How you doing, cuz?
I'm doing good, cuz.
Well, thank you for coming on and on a whim on this podcast. We're excited for you to be here. But I know that there's a lot that we can talk about. So I said, let's just dive in.
Okay, well, I'm happy to be here to speak geek.
Yes. So let's talk about ChatGPT and Avatar Buddy. Can you explain to us what this new version is that just came out?
All right, so ChatGPT is now in 4.0, and Avatar Buddy is also in 4.0. So with that, we get the ability to, I guess, an upgraded language ability now. That's really cool. So, and we were testing it out, and we were able to get somebody's voice on there.
Oh,
which is
I
really
wonder
wild.
who. So, people, if you love my voice and if Avatar Buddy comes out, you can hear me speak to you all day long.
So Stephanie Sylvester, the CEO of Avatar Buddy, said, I really want Savannah's voice.
Yeah,
So
I know. I'm so honored. So it is kind of wicked because I sent like a few clips and I was so blown away by the technology of how she really has me just speaking and like things that I didn't send her in the recording.
yeah, what were the requirements? She gave you like some things that you had to do.
Right. And so she told me to talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. And so she gave me like specific links of time, a voice
Said a
recording.
30-second, a 60-second,
and
and
a
a 90-second.
And so
And that was all it took.
that's all it took. And so when y'all played the sound the other day in here, I was like, it's so crazy how technology works.
And it was done so fast.
I know.
That's crazy. I mean, because it used to take like months to synthesize something like
Yes.
Yeah.
It took her literally a week.
that. Yeah.
So I was blown away. So when Avatar Buddy is finally on the market, you can choose me as your Avatar Buddy, which is really exciting for me personally. But Pastor David, tell us what you're going to pick up today.
Well, as of yesterday, 10/10, the Meta Quest 3 was released officially, and you can pick it up at Best Buy. And I'm headed over there right after this podcast to get my Quest 3.
So what's the difference from the 3 from 1 and 2?
Well, the 3 has an updated chipset, a new mobile processor in it that it's a higher processing power. So it's going to be able to do a whole lot more. It has more cameras. It's not necessarily lighter, but the weight distribution is better.
Right.
So it's not as heavy or front heavy as the 2 is.
Right.
It has, because of the new cameras, it's got something called pass-through that is very, very clear. So before with the 2, if you had a pass-through, like which is not full VR, but it's like you can see your outside world, it was kind of blurry, or it is kind of blurry. And so, it's like you couldn't read notes, you couldn't look at your watch, you couldn't look at your phone. But with this new version, Quest 3 has full pass-through, and it's pretty good. It's like, I'd say 90% clear.
Right.
So now that allows you the ability to actually use, say, your laptop. Okay. And
While you have your Quest 3.
while you have your Quest 3 on, and you can have multiple screens connected to your laptop. You can now see your keyboard. You can see everything's going on around you outside. So it adds another dimension of productivity that we did not have in the Quest 2.
So is the Quest 3, so from what I remember is that the metaverse, like Facebook, you had to have the Quest 2 to get on the metaverse. So are they going to make like another stipulation like, oh, now you have to have the Quest 3, or we're not sure about that?
No, because they dropped the price of the Quest 2.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to be able to, they're still going to be selling the Quest 2. And that's like the entry level version right now. And so, yeah, they're going to keep rolling out the Quest 2, I imagine, for the next 2 years.
So do you think it's going to sell well, the Quest 3 then?
I think the geeks like me will get it
Right.
ASAP, but I think everybody else is kind of waiting
Yeah.
to see, is it good enough? And it will depend on your use case as well.
Right. Because, in the new year, the Vision Pro is coming out. So how do you think that that's going to come? And if you don't know what the Vision Pro is, that's Apple's VR invention.
Expensive VR.
Very expensive. But I think as you were talking about being able to see through, I think more of the sell for Apple is like you can message, like if you get a text message, it pops up and you're able to reply in the Vision Pro rather than like it's there and then you're typing on the side, but you're able to like kind of respond in this Vision Pro. So do you think that that's going to do well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Apple has always been an AR focused company. They're augmented reality. They were like, okay, VR is a thing, but AR is where the production is, where productivity is. So Apple has always been about AR and MR, mixed reality. And, they thought that was the thing. So when they produced this headset, that they did that with that thought in mind. So yes, you're going to be able to play games, but they're into the more ability to be more productive, mixing the realities.
Right.
So superimposing a screen over your real world.
Do you think that that could kind of dilute the reality?
I'm sure it could be argued.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to make people more productive. I think it's going to amplify people.
Imagine just walking into the office, everybody has their Vision Pros on.
That will, but to be fair, when you had the Quest 2 on, nobody, you couldn't see anything. You had to tap the headset to get it clear so you could see what's going on outside. Now everybody's going to be able to see everything going on around them.
And so even with the Quest 3, you're able to just kind of work and operate.
What should be able to. I yet to try it. I'm going to buy it anyway.
Yeah.
And try it.
Yeah.
But what I've heard is it's pretty good. You can work for about 45 good minutes easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Oh, it is. It is.
So where do you think the future is going to look like for AI? Let's say when summer camp starts again next summer, where do you think we're going to be at?
That is a very interesting question because there's so much innovation that's happening and has happened. So with the release of the Quest 3, Meta has mated their AI in the back end.
So is Microsoft the co-pilot, is it a form of Meta or it's like its own AI iteration?
It's its own AI iteration. It's now going to be integrated into Office 365.
So it's going to be like a ChatGPT, but in Office.
It's going to be a
co-pilot. Gotcha. Okay, that's kind of actually really exciting because the reality is that, like, I don't know about you, but when I go on Word or PowerPoint, I'm like, I know how to do it, but I don't know how to do it.
Like I just recently was writing an app and I was able to type in. Now, that's the thing. We're still typing in. Very soon, we're just going to be able to talk to it.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be really heavily incorporated. But right now, I was able to type it in and it produced a skeleton for me.
Of an app.
That's
wild.
Yeah. And I was able to say, okay, I don't like this. I like this. Add this. Take this,
Right.
And then was able to just work with that skeleton.
Right.
So I don't think we're going to completely see the removal of programmers. I think it's going to augment programmers.
But I think the reality, what it seems like with AI, and for me, I love the progression. I think that it's great. I think that tech makes life so much easier. I think that what's going to happen is like, it's not going to replace, but you're going to have to adapt the new conditions and be able to.
Yes.
Because if you're not, you're going to get, I always feel like this, you're going to be left behind.
So I always liken this to, and you've heard me say it before, with Iron Man.
Yeah.
And, Tony Stark working on the Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
And we really never really noticed it much, but he had an AI that he was working with called Jarvis.
Yes.
and they, their little conversations and banter going back and forth, and how he was able to iterate the suits, by, okay, go work on this. And I found that, I think that is where we're going.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he had to really understand what he was trying to build.
Yeah.
In order to give orders to the AI.
Because it can play a dangerous game when you're trying to talk to the AI, but you have no direction to take it. Because when you use like chat or like Avatar Buddy, you have to be very specific in what you want. Because yes, it's going to give you a response, but sometimes the response is too broad.
It may or may not be what you want.
Right.
So, they call it prompt engineering, but actually it's just a conversation.
Yeah. And so what chat and Avatar Buddy has really helped me to do is to be more precise and specific to what I want from something. Because I think with the American language, I'll say, is that I think that sometimes we don't really know like how to talk. And like, so what Avatar Buddy and chat has really taught me is like, no, what do you really mean? What do you actually need?
Yes.
And so that's what I've really learned, like how to change my vocab and like be more specific and like, no, this is what I need.
One of my big concerns now is we've been hearing that AI is going to take our jobs. AI is going to, so there's really no point in going to school or learning anymore because AI is going to do everything. And I think that is a huge misnomer.
I think so too.
And it's like you can't direct the avatar to do something if you don't understand what you want it to do.
Well, I think about, so I used to live in Japan. Japan has always been tech forward. And so they have a lot of like inventions. It might not be like specifically like the Quest 3 and things like that, but they've always had tech and robots and all these things. They weren't taking jobs, like they just lived in a society where they were cohesive rather than divisive. And I think that because people don't understand tech, so specifically like, because our world is made up of a lot of older people who aren't really...
I resemble that remark.
I would say like my grandparents and stuff, like some of them still have like flip phones and things like that. And so I look at it that way, but then I kind of look at like, is tech created for everyone? Because sometimes it may seem user-friendly for those like me, Generation Z, that grew up with tech. It's easy for me. But if you've never grown up with tech, how user-friendly is it really?
And that is, I mean, that's what Apple has done so well on, is making it user-friendly. And, and that's what Android gets slighted for, is because they don't. You kind of have to mold yourself to the technology.
Yeah.
And I believe that over time, that's what we're going to see in terms of innovation, is that the software, the hardware that's going to be coming out is going to be more adaptable to humans.
Yeah.
Instead of human have to, adapt to it.
I think that would be the answer, because I really do look around and I have to really put the age aside, like the ageism, and saying like, well, tech is so easy, but it's like, if you don't know and it's such a stranger to you, how easy is it really? I mean, my grandparents have cable. All of us have Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus, and so if you're in the space, you understand that. But if you have no clue and you're growing up in these small towns where tech is not even being talked about, it's like, I can see where the fear comes from. Like, well, I don't understand what this is, honestly. And I think that, again, there's bad players in the game.
Yes, absolutely. And so, I mean, you've been around people that right now, there's so much information available.
Yeah.
And you've been around people that refuse to Google.
Yes.
That they'll ask you rather than Googling it themselves.
Yeah.
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 So I'm always amazed by it, but I'm now no longer surprised by it.
Yeah. I feel like you were saying something about knowledge. Can you say what you were saying before the podcast about the democracy?
Oh, yeah. So, Stephanie Silvestri and I, we're going kicking back and forth. the future and how AI is, how it's going to play such a big part in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was saying, well, it seems like we have this democratization of information.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's really allowing for that. She goes, no, that happened back when the internet came into play.
Right.
That we were, information was available to everybody at this point. Now they just had to go and search for themselves. She goes, no, what's happening is we have a democratization of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, the information is there. How you go about getting that and applying it is now democratized.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that is so profound. So we have the ability now with, Avatar Buddy, which is basically a mentor.
Yeah.
Or a what do you call it when you have a tutor?
Yeah.
A tutor. And you can have an Ivy League tutor now at your disposal.
Yeah.
And everybody can have that.
Yeah.
And within probably a year's time, it's going to be available in so many different configurations on your phone.
It's truly insane. And I think where a lot of people get the misinterpretation of AI is that they think it's like a form of media. And I think that's where they're like missing the mark, because it's not a news outlet. It's not Instagram. It's not TikTok. It truly is a iteration of its own thing, and it's for good. It's positive. And so I think because they speak about it in news media and things like that, I think that's also where the mongering comes in. It's this evil thing that's taking over, but it's not media at all.
Remember, well, you probably grew up with this, scientific calculators.
Yes. Love them. They're the best thing they ever invented.
When they first came on the scene.
Yeah.
And so many people were against them. It was,
really?
Oh, yeah, it was evil. You must do things, pen and paper, pencil and paper. You must write out. Yeah. And you could not, they did not want the calculators in class, things like that.
Right.
And then I remember this tremendous transition that happened where you can't do the SAT without a scientific calculator.
You can't pass statistics now without a scientific calculator.
Exactly.
There's no way.
Now you have to have one in class now.
Wow, I never knew that. Yeah. A scientific calculator.
And they were banning it. I mean, it was bad. And so I see the same thing with AI. It's like it is a tool, but at what point do we say, okay, everybody has to use it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to get there because it's like, think about a classroom. It doesn't function without technology. When I was younger in school, have you ever heard of the smart board? I know they have Promethean boards and things like that. We didn't have Promethean boards. We had smart boards. But they were in the classroom and nobody used
it. Yeah.
They just sat there. I just remember like being in class, and I always thought the thing was so cool because, we were growing up in tech. And I always thought it was so cool. And I just never understood, like they'd still use the expo board and the chalkboard and the those old school projectors you click on. And I always thought it was so bizarre that they never, and I graduated in 2015, never used a smart board.
And I think that's because of what was required. You actually had to learn how to use it. And we had to learn how the technology that you're currently, like PowerPoint. You had to actually, and I remember when PowerPoint first came out.
Yes.
And people refused to use it. So now you have to apply the knowledge, with PowerPoint to this new technology, these boards. And I think the same thing is happening now.
Well, because now the classrooms are like TCA, for a good example, you need a tablet or a laptop to be able to function in the school. So it's like, now we're like somewhere where it's like you need technology. And I think that that's so bizarre because that's less than 10 years from when I graduated and we weren't even using smart boards. So I think we're really in like a tech boom.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I know you're getting your degree in education.
Yeah.
So are you scared? Because you potentially are going to be a teacher. Are you concerned that AI may take your job?
No.
Why?
Because what I know from kids, my experience with students, because I deal with all kinds of students all the time in every facet of my life. Students, they don't run to tech for education. And I think that that's maybe where the market value is missing with like our Avatar Buddy and stuff, because students aren't running to the internet, their phones, their tablets, their computers for like, they're not running to it for like, teach me these things. It's more about how can I get a quick answer, or how can I talk to my friends, or how can I talk to this person? How can I engage with people rather than, and so I think from what I know is that teachers need to learn how to use technology to grab the attention of students, because the problem is that, and then it gets political because, you know, in certain states, there's only certain ways that you're allowed to teach. And so when we're stuck in this idea of lecture, it's like, well, students don't live a life of lecture. So why would we try to teach them information about lecture? And so I say you have to come up with creative ways to get students engaged with technology.
Absolutely
It's
agree.
not going to work if you're not using technology. I said, even for me, and I'm at the very brink of like Gen Z and like a millennial. And for me, it's like, everything I do, it has to be easy for me, and it has to be technology. A great example is like, everybody has like a paper Bible. I'm like, I'm never going to open a paper Bible ever again because I have the app on my iPad, have it on my phone. And I just think that sometimes we try to push so hard to get kids to do the things that we did because it's easier for us that way. But no, textbooks should be electronic. Everything should be on this tablet or the computer. I always say, if you want the kids to learn, you want the kids to engage, meet them where they're at. If they're using the phone, okay, so how can we get the lecture on the phone? The kids like things like that. And I think that we're not trying to meet them where they're at. And it's like, no, we gotta write by hand and take notes and all these things. It's like, even now, I use my iPad to take notes. I don't have a notebook in my life, to pull out and write notes. I think that as a teacher, if you want to be successful in this growing time, obviously elementary school is a little different, but middle school and high school, meet them where they're at. How can I get the information to them so they can easily access that?
So as a teacher, it's now evolving into this mentoring where you're like, okay, I know where to get the information. I know where to get the knowledge. I'm pointing you to how to do that and the best ways to do that.
Yes. But I would say don't make it so hard. Because what I've realized, even for myself about college, like logging on to my course and stuff, it's like, you have to click on this homepage. You have to log in this way. And then once you log in, you got to verify and do all these things. And like, I get security and I get all these things, but you're making us jump through all of these hoops just to access the information. I think that if schools and education could really just find a way to have an app on the phone, you click on the app and here's your information. And I think that we're doing a really big disservice, and like, we want engagement from students, but we're not doing anything to engage the students. And so I think that students just need something that's easier.
Agreed.
Because we like it easy. So why can't they also have that same opportunity, I guess?
Absolutely.
So that's just kind of my take. Obviously. And obviously I'm younger, and it's just based on my own experiences and what I've noticed with students.
So from the other perspective, I guess I would be now almost a senior citizen. And that's kind of scary to even think that, right now.
Yeah.
But I recognize that I am, and my wife as well, we're anomalies.
Yes, because y'all love technology.
Yeah.
My parents, my stepdad and my mom love technology, and they're Gen X. So I always say, like, it's there. You just have to be willing.
And so I would be considered the tail end of the baby boomers. And I have spoken to people I've graduated with high school. So yeah, it's like, why are you even doing that? Well, it's like I grew another head. Like when I tell people in my age group that I'm getting a Quest 3, they're just like, why? Wait, what you're going to play games? Like, what? They can't understand the power in the technology.
I think that the other side of that is that people just don't want you to indulge in things that you like, because for the society here, the overall, it's like, that's not productive. But it's just the lack of not knowing.
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree.
Well, this was such a riveting conversation. And so hopefully some teachers heard me what I said about technology. And so we like to wrap up the podcast, as you know, with the word of the day. And you had a great one. And so what is that word?
That word is innovation.
And why is that?
Because as you stated, we are living in very interesting times, and the technology is changing and ever evolving at a rate. It's happening so fast, and it's shocking even us, who are, close to it, grew up with, worked with it most of our lives. And it's like, this is really happening fast. So we have to have an innovative approach to how we are working with the technologies.
I agree.
So we have to have an innovative approach to how we're working with the technologies, how we adapt with the technologies that are coming. Like, students are now, education is not something that you can take for granted anymore, where it's just a given, where you're just, I go to school, and if I go through the motions, I'm going to get a degree or a diploma.
Yeah.
And, you actually have to be intentional now.
Yeah.
And it's going to require a level of innovation because the technology is changing so fast. We cannot prescribe to you an exact way to consume it now.
Yeah. Tech is fun.
Yes.
So make that part of the education, and now everything is fun. Because learning is fun, right? That's our tagline. So thank you so much. I'm pretty sure we'll have you back again with some more updates, and we get to find out how the Quest 3 is. So that's exciting. So thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, everyone, as always, there are two sponsors that we like to thank, and that is the Children's Trust and Trinity Church. And don't forget that there are 3 ways in which you can watch or listen to this podcast. If you like to watch, just follow us on YouTube. If you like to listen, just follow us on Apple or Spotify. Remember, this is the STEAM Forward podcast. See you next week.